Hello. Now, as part of correlation coefficients, they will sometimes ask you about the line of best fit of a particular data set. And all I'm going to do is show you how to draw a line of best fit and then get the equation of that line in the way that you would usually get the equation of a line when you're given its graph. So that's all we're going to be looking at in this question. But for those of you who have forgotten or aren't familiar with line of best fit, again, those of you who do the sciences, line of best fit means the same thing in the e-sciences as it does in maths. So what I've done with my example from the last video, where I had the temperature on a particular day versus the amount of ice cream sold, what I've done is draw in this blue line. This blue line is my attempt at a line of best fit. And what I'm trying to do is to use a straight line that gives the best averaging of my data set. So I've drawn a straight line that gives the best kind of overall average for where my data set is going. Now that's one way of explaining it. The other one is you're trying to go straight through the middle of where your data set is going. And one of the consequences of that, of any average, is that you should have roughly the same number of points on both sides of the line. Obviously, if you had perfect correlation, if we had a OR value of 1, all of the points would be sitting on a perfectly straight line. But here we just have a strong correlation, and as a result, remember our OR value for this situation was 0.93 roughly from our calculators. So when we draw on the line, all of the points aren't sitting perfectly on our blue line, but they're fairly close to it. And I can see that I have 1, 2, 3 points above that line, and I have 1, 2, 3 points below that line. So I have a line that's going fairly evenly through the center of my data set. So that is my drawing the line of best fit. Now, you have to do what I just said, but we also want to try and make life as easy for ourselves as possible. If you can see, when I was drawing this line, I was trying to meet the criteria I just said, that I was going through the middle of my data set, but I was trying to make life easier for myself in terms of working with this equational line. I know to get the equation of this line, I'm going to need to get 2 points on this line. So what I was also having in the back of my mind was, am I able to go through the middle of my data set and also cross some nice points to work with? So I can see that I have a nice point here and I have a nice point here. And by nice points, I mean that I am crossing at my little grid lines here, so I have whole number coordinates. The coordinates of this point here are going to be 14, 6. And the coordinates of this point here are going to be 9, 4. So I have nice points to put into my equations now, into my formulas now, for getting the equation of this line of best fit. So while you have to get, very much so, you have to be showing that you are going through the middle of your data set, the middle of your bunch of points, you also want to be making life easier for yourself. Try and have it that it sits that you have 2 points on your line that are going to be on nice coordinates to work with, that you're not dealing with decimals when you're getting the equation of your line. So now that I have my 2 points, what I'm going to do is find the equation of my line. So if I see anything that asks me about a line, or they will pretty much always say the line, the equation of the line of best fit, it doesn't matter that I'm dealing with it in a statistics type question. I'm still finding the equation of a line. So I'm going to open up page 18 in my log tables. So the second I see anything about the equation of a line, I'm going to open up my log tables to page 18, and I'm going to look for the equations I need to get the equation of a line. And the equation of the line formula is y minus y1 is equal to m on x2 minus x on x minus x1. Now, I have an x1, y1 because I've got a point. In fact, I have two of them. But I don't have the slope. So I write down the equation that's called the equation of the line formula, and I look for what information I've got for that equation, and I see that I have a point, my x1 and y1, but I don't have the slope. So now I'm going to write down my slope formula as well. y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. Now I know what I need to have in order to get my equation of my line. And I have an x1, y1 and x2, y2 because I have 2 points on this line. So remember again, when you're drawing your line of best fit, we want to have an eye toward making life easy for ourselves. We're going to make sure that when we draw it, we have at least two convenient points to take from it to sub into these formula later on. Now I'm going to say this is my first point, and this is my second point. As we already know from doing our equation of our line earlier on in our mathematical careers, we know that we could pick either of these points as being point 1. I'm just going to pick 9, 4 as being my first point. Now I know that I need to find the slope of this line, so I'm going to write down my formula before I sub in. Now I'm going to sub in, and I have y2 is 6. Anything you sub in should go in brackets. Under the pressure of an exam, it's very easy to make a mistake. If this was minus 4, you could end up just putting 6 minus 4. But if you put in your brackets, it makes it much less likely that you make mistakes with signs when you are working. So I have my y2 minus y1, and now I need my x2, 14, minus x1 is 9, and I work that out and I get 2/5. So my slope of my blue line, my line of best fit, is 2/5. And now I am going to use my equation of my line formula. And in the exam, they will ask you for this in a particular form. Obviously, I haven't written out a question here, so I'm just going to remind you of the two forms they're likely to ask for the equation of the line in. Now, we've written this down. We have all of our information, so let's sub in. Y minus y1. I may as well keep the same y1 as last time. I'll rewrite it here. Remember, when you're doing equation of the line or circle questions, you're going to often end up with multiple iterations of x1 and y1, so rewrite your information before you sub in to your equation. When you're doing an exam question, they will be long and they will have multiple parts with multiple x1s and y1s, so we want to make sure that we don't make a mistake in our substitution. So taking that extra second to rewrite what we're going to substitute in directly above the equation makes it less likely that we make a mistake on the day. So 9. Now, I work that out. 5 x minus 9. Now, I don't like this fraction, so what am I going to do? I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. You don't have to do it this way. You can work with these fractions, but generally it's safer to get rid of fractions where you can, and in this case it's fairly easy. I now have that multiplied out without any fractions left in it, and the two different ways that we can work from here is either to have the x, the y and the constant all together on one side of the line, or we can have y equals everything else, and both forms of the equation are useful, and both forms can be asked for in the exam. So I'm going to do getting y by itself on this side of the equation, so I'll end up with 5y is equal to 2x plus 2. Divide both sides by 5 and we get y is equal to 2 over 5x plus 2 over 5. That's one form of the equation in the form y equals mx plus c. And that has its uses. And the other form, standard form for the equation of the line, would be getting the x, the y, and the number, the constant, all on one side equals 0. So that would end up looking like, if I rewrite that, 5y minus 20 is equal to 2x minus 18. Rearranging that, you would end up with 2x minus 5y plus 2 is equal to 0. And that is called the standard form for the equation of the line. So if you're asked about line of best fit, you're going to draw it in the way that I've talked to you about, being clever, or to have two nice points to work with in terms of getting the equation. We're going to make sure that we follow sensible structures here, writing down our points, writing down our formula, subbing in with brackets, making sure we get full marks for all of our work because we're showing everything very clearly, and making sure we get to that next block of attempt marks very clearly each time. And that's what we need for the line of best